It was over. The war was finally over. As the smoke cleared, we were victorious. The soldiers left standing were the ones to cheer in victory. The sky became littered with the howls and cries of the joyful and happy. The tyranny of the Demon Lord had ended. But what now? Home was now possible. We could go back to the human world and we could live our lives as we wanted. It was something I desperately wanted, and yet my body was not ready to make the journey just yet. We had to celebrate the success of the war, after all. As the full moon rose over Lilith Castle towards the dawn, the entirety of the demon world celebrated with endless drink and food, laughter, and dancing. It was so unreal, but the courtyard that I could see was filled with smiles and happy faces. We had stayed for one more night, traveling back to Lilith Castle to rest and return home as healthy as we could be. After all, we had just gone through a war. One more night in the demon world wasn't going to hurt us. While the majority of the rebellion danced in the courtyard, I remained with the Incubi and the rebel leaders, who were all in the royal hall having their own celebration. Drinks were shared and battle stories were exchanged, making some laugh and others roll their eyes. I found myself intrigued at the story Sergeant told about the front line. As I looked at Diana, however, she simply kept quiet with a small smile on her face. She looked at the Incubi and the rebel leaders in silence before walking away from the little party we had. She lived. Thank goodness. As if she knew I was staring at her, Diana looked over at me and slightly gestured with her head to follow her. Of course. I followed, curious as to where she was going. I made sure to remain quiet as I separated from the rest of the group and followed her out of the room into the hall. The entire journey, Diana didn't speak a word. Even Sarah didn't follow her, most likely being told that she wanted to speak to me alone. Diana led me through the castle, up a couple sets of stairs, into what looked to be a royal bedroom with a balcony. Was this the guest room? It was untouched and I could smell the very faint scent of dust. Why did she bring me here? Diana stepped into the room, using her magic to ignite the candelabras and air out the room by opening the balcony window. Before I could ask, however, Diana finally spoke up.
I have to thank you, dear.
For what?
For aiding us in this war. We've been fighting the Demon Lord for so long. We thought the war would never end. As terrible as the circumstance was, if you hadn't been summoned here, we probably would have still been fighting now.
Diana walked to the balcony and leaned against the railing, staring into the dark night sky. The light from the room illuminated her form as she gazed at the stars. Despite the situation around us, the air seemed calm with the faint echo of the celebrations whispering through the night. I walked over and stood beside her, leaning against the balcony, and looked at Diana as she smiled and let out a chuckle.
To be very honest, I didn't expect to ever see you again. After I took your energy that night, I vowed to never deal with humans again. No clairvoyance could have told me about you coming into play in this war.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that shared vision we had, though, of the end of the war? Where I was there, and you were there, and Damien was there, and he died, and you got me out of there before I died, and... Yeah? No? Well, I wasn't exactly counting on coming here. I still don't want to be here. And despite being haunted by my inner demon that looked like you, it was good to see you again, though. Diana stared wide-eyed at me, a small form of a blush on her cheeks. What? It was true. I was able to see another side of her, one that wasn't cruel or ruthless towards me. I guess it was the real her, and I was happy to find out that she wasn't a terrible person after all. When you were in the human world, I never imagined you to be a nice person. You did everything you could to mess with me, and try to coerce the boys to return. Since I came, I know who you really are. You have a good heart, Diana, and I'm glad to know that now. Diana stared for a while before smiling softly, her eyes slightly glossing over in a sense of appreciation. She almost looked like a little girl for half of a second, her face so full of innocence.
And you do as well, my friend.
Diana turned her body to me and held her hand out towards me. I smiled back and took her hand, gently shaking it before pulling her to me, surprising her. I wanted to hug her, so I did. I wrapped my arms around her body and felt her very slowly relax into my embrace. With a small breath and what I assumed to be a purr, Diana wrapped her arms around me and hugged me back. Never would I have imagined embracing Diana and seeing her not as an enemy, but as a friend. It was mind-boggling, but I was glad to know the real Diana now. Diana and I pulled away from each other and smiled before she stepped back to her original spot.
Oh, I had almost forgotten.
I tilted my head at her. What was she talking about? Diana lifted one of her hands towards the sky and waved her hand through the air, making a soft purple mist glow around her fingers. Within seconds, the mist morphed and formed itself into a lavender-colored lily, resting peacefully between Diana's fingers. She brought it down and presented it to me with a kind gaze.
A gift, my dear.
A gift? I slowly took the flower out of Diana's hands and inspected it visually. It was light, but I could feel a soft glow of magic emanating from the stem and petals. The bloom reminded me of a human world lily, but something about it seemed otherworldly.
A flower known only to demons of Lilith. We call it the Flower of Lilith, because these flowers were said to have been created when Lilith first appeared in the Abyssal Plains.
I stared at Diana, not understanding why she was giving me such a gift. She chuckled at my confusion and leaned against the railing, continuing her explanation.
It is also a flower we succubi use when we marry.
Use? What do you mean? Diana chuckled again before she gently took the flower from my hands and tucked it behind my ear. As it settled against my ear, I felt mist circle my head and form into a flower crown of lavender lilies. The way Diana looked at me made me feel like I was in my bridal wear already.
A human you may be, but Lilith would have been proud to see you marrying one of her own. These flowers represent her blessing, and may only crown the worthy.
I felt a blush run across my cheeks. This was a blessing? I slowly reached up and ran my fingers along the flower crown adorning my head, feeling the soft petals against my fingertips. They were almost pulsing with energy. I felt both flattered and honored that a simple flower felt that I was worthy enough to crown my head. Diana let out a sigh and looked back to the sky, making me do the same. One would have expected the sky to be full of smoke or smell of a war's aftermath, but the sky was clear, and fresh air drifted through my nose as I inhaled. It was indeed another world, and tonight was my last night in it.
Well,
Hey!
you did it! Congratulations! You've made it to the end of your story. I have to say, I am very surprised at how it turned out.
Give me that rundown, though.
Nevertheless, I'm glad things worked out in the end, whether it was for the better or otherwise. Despite everything Damien went through, it was all worth it to obtain his humanity and to be truly happy, don't you think? He got his revenge for his mother, and both of you saved the demon world. I definitely would put that down as successes.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Anyways, you've been through a lot, so why don't we skip to... Huh? You want to know what happened after the war? Well, I mean, I guess I could tell you. After the war was finished, the entire rebellion celebrated. Word spread far and wide about the rebellion's success, and soon every kingdom in the Abyssal Plains had become united with the new authority. You would think demons would be more hostile towards each other, being demons and all, but the threat of the Demon Lord was what brought the entire world together. The entire world united under one banner, the Lilith crest. Diana became the sovereign of the entire plane, accepted and loved by practically everyone because of her devotion to the world and her bravery in the war. Sero, as devoted as ever, remained by her side as her loyal bodyguard.
Oh, poor Sero.
Diana became one of the most beloved rulers in all of Demon World history. Her natural heart of gold led her to lead the world to a prosperous future, one filled with peace and happiness.
And what about the animal demons?
The other rebel leaders supported her, eventually changing the caste system of the world and slowly working their way towards a plane as equal and peaceful as it could be.
Okay, so that did eventually happen.
Diana had her suspicions, of course, as any monarch would, but if they had any sort of bad thoughts about her before, they certainly didn't during the recreation of the world. And I believe that is everything that happened after, well, except for your story, anyway. Damien and you, both completely human now, return home and set up once more for your wedding. Take 2. Huh? How do I know? Well, I have my ways. Maybe you should check it out.
I will. Just not right now. It took a while to get everything back in order, but with the help of Damien's brothers and their wives, we were able to finally have the wedding Damien and I dreamed of. Everything was organized to the T, and it was indeed perfect. The revels of the ceremony and reception still shook through me, even through the honeymoon. It was so unreal. I was married to the love of my life, and we were about to live our lives together forever. I could go on and on about the wedding and the honeymoon, but honestly, after the war, I was more concerned of living my life afterwards. Our lives escalated to new heights after we officially became husband and wife. Damien finally settled on what he wanted to do, dedicating himself to writing small stories for children. Stop! You can't become more precious, you sweet little bean! Reading to him became a passion, drawing him towards teaching children to learn before they had gotten older. It was beautiful, to say the least. Aw, because he didn't learn to read because his books kept getting taken away. That's so cute. As for me, I began to go through my own success in life, dedicating myself to becoming exactly what I wanted to be. After all, Damien was dedicated to his working goal. If I put the same amount of work in as I did in the demon world, then I was going to be okay. However, there was never a day that went by that I didn't think about what was happening in the Abyssal Plains. It was a heavy chapter of my life, one that tested the love between me and Damien. While the struggle was rough, Damien was finally able to realize his dream of being a human. Even more so, he was able to take down his father and gain revenge not only for his mother, but for what the Demon Lord had done to him as a child. I was so proud of him, and I was even more proud to call him mine. This change affected us both, and who knew what the future had in store now. Still, I was confident that we would get through it and stay together no matter what came our way. Demon, devil, whatever. It didn't matter to us. We were unstoppable together. A moment to myself was all it took to remember everything that went on during my time in the Abyssal Plains. It was a heavy part of my life, and a chapter I would never forget for as long as I lived. I sat in bed waiting for Damien to return from his visit to the Anderson Toys Company. He wanted to pitch his next book idea to his brothers, and hopefully get some funding for it for art and publishing, but I had high hopes for it regardless. It was boring, however, just waiting. I slid off of the bed, standing and stretching. What to do? I began to let my feet guide me through the house, wanting something to take my attention. As I let my mind wander, I couldn't help remembering the secret alcove the house had, where Damien confessed his love for me. Ah, yes, that. I wondered, was it still there? I walked through my memory, trying to find the secret passage once again. With my luck, I managed to find it and walk through it, leaving the passageway open for Damien to find me later, in case I stuck around the spring for long. I walked through the dark passage and eventually entered the magical space my grandfather had created for the mansion, hiding a beautiful hot spring. The steam was just as heavy as it was when I was last in the space, making me smile and let out a relaxing sigh. A moment in the spring was well worth everything I had gone through. I stripped down and slowly eased myself into the spring, feeling the water slowly drain my aches and stress away the lower I slid myself. As I finally sat down, another sigh couldn't stop itself from escaping me, taking in the fresh air and slight hint of flowers emanating in the air. My thoughts simply melted away, letting me simply sit back against the edge of the spring and indulge in the warmth around my body. The only thing that would have made the experience perfect was Damien beside me to cuddle against. As if fate answered my selfish prayer, my thoughts were broken by the sound of slowly approaching footsteps, making me look over with a smile as I spotted familiar purple and blue eyes.
Hey, enjoying the spring?
Damien slowly began to walk towards me, stripping out of his clothes to join me as I smiled and nodded, lying back against the edge of the spring lazily. The water is so good. You're missing out. Aw, so sweet. Damien chuckled before finally joining me, sitting beside me and wrapping his arms around me. I giggled in return, nuzzling into his shoulder and chest. The water may have been warm, but feeling Damien against me made me feel just right. Ha ha ha. Damien nuzzled my head with his and kissed over my shoulder gently. How was the meeting with James?
It went good. I got the funding.
Hooray! I pulled away, suddenly excited for Damien. He grinned at me, nodding and affirming his words with a happy expression. That's awesome! Congratulations! Damien laughed and gently kissed me before pulling me into a hug, wrapping his arms fully around me and holding me close. I cuddled into his embrace, waves of joy practically emanating from us. This was the start of Damien's future, and I would be standing beside him, eager to see him grow and become the successful person he wanted to be. Damien softly kissed my cheek and let out a sigh, relaxing his embrace but not letting me go.
You are such an inspiration to me.
Damien.
It's true. You've supported me and been with me ever since we met. You did everything to protect me and give me everything I could have ever wanted.
Damien slightly pulled away and stared into my eyes, his own full of love and passion that glimmered in the light of the magically made moon above us.
How did I ever come to deserve you?
I smiled sweetly and cupped Damien's cheek, feeling him nuzzle into my palm as I kissed his cheek softly. I knew very well that our relationship came from us deserving each other. I loved him, and he loved me. It was all that mattered in the end. I should be asking the same thing, but I know that we perfectly deserve each other. I felt like I was in some sort of blissful dream, staring into Damien's eyes as he became lost in mine. I love you, Damien.
I love you too.
I couldn't speak, and I couldn't stop my smile from growing before leaning in and kissing Damien lovingly, feeling him kiss back with the same amount of love and passion I had. Our lives will lead us to a blissful future, one full of adventure, joy, and endless waves of affection for one another. He obtained his dream, and I had obtained mine. And that was my perfect happily ever after. You are my dearest dream. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, we did it! We got that being his humanity and lived. Thank goodness. Oh, yay! Survived. That was so intense. I really liked Damien's route. That was so good. My only problem was Angel's reasonings and thoughts some of the time, and I guess she must have resolved her inner demons. It wasn't, like, conclusive, but I guess just calling it out for what it was enough. Some plot threads were kind of left dangling, but I mean, overall, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Probably mostly in part because Damien is such a precious little bun and needs all the love in the world, and I'm glad he got it, so hooray! We did it, guys! So we have one more good ending for Damien, which I'm guessing he's probably going to stay a demon boy, so we'll see if my theory is correct, and hopefully I'll see you over there for that, guys, so yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed Damien's route, the first good ending, and hopefully I'll see you later. So, until next time, I will see you later.